Good morning. Today was an interesting day. Obviously, DOGE and everything that's going on politically. Donald Trump is just basically cleaning house. He's basically taking a plunger to the toilet we call our bureaucratic government system or the swamp and just flushing it out. Regardless of what your opinion is on the man himself, he is definitely delivering on the mandate of the American people. Anywho, moving forward, let's kind of get into this thing. And now, I believe this particular article came from the New York Times. However, I was able to find it at the Salt Lake Tribune. So let's move this forward.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Mahalo Hosting. Mahalo Hosting offers competitive rates for domain names and web hosting. Why register a star in your name when your name can be your domain? Mahalo Hosting also offers custom high-level domains like .photography, .club, .us, and .tv. Visit www.mahalohosting.com today.
5 former Treasury secretaries. Our democracy is under siege. So this is an opinion piece from Salt Lake Tribune. Former Secretaries Rubin, Summers, Geithner, Liu, and Yellen argue that DOGE is a great threat to America. I don't know if you guys have been following the news, but everybody's saying it's a constitutional crisis. You know it's a psyop when every single news outlet is regurgitating the same line. They have nothing original. All they can do is they get their marching orders and they just push out the same verbiage. This is what's become so wrong with a lot of the left-leaning and mainstream media. So let's continue on. This particular article is by Robert E. Rubin, Lawrence H. Summers, Timothy Guy. Wow, it's a whole team of people writing this for the New York Times. I think the original article in the New York Times was for February 10th, so this is just being redistributed through the Salt Lake Tribune. Let's take a look. When we had the honor of being sworn in as the 70th, 71st, 75th, 76th, and the 78th Secretaries of the Treasury, we took an oath to support and defend the United States Constitution. Put a pen in that. Our roles were multifaceted. We sought to develop sound policy to advance the president's agenda and represent the economic interests of the United States on the world stage. But in doing that, we recognized that our most fundamental responsibility was the faithful execution of the laws and Constitution of the United States. We were fortunate during our tenures in office, no effort was made to unlawfully undermine the nation's financial commitments. Regrettably, recent reporting gives substantial cause for concern that such efforts are underway today. The nation's payment system has historically been operated by a very small group of nonpartisan career civil servants. Put a pin in that one, nonpartisan. I seriously doubt that Janet Yellen is nonpartisan. Career civil service. In recent days, the norm has been upended, and the roles of these nonpartisan officials have been compromised by political actors from the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. One has been appointed Fiscal Assistant Secretary, a post that for prior 8 decades had been reserved exclusively for civil servants to ensure impartiality and public confidence in the handling of the payment of the federal funds. These political actors have not been subject to the same rigorous ethic rules as civil servants. I'm sorry, if you guys know me, you would probably be laughing with me. And one has explicitly retained his role in a private company, creating the best the appearance of financial conflicts of interest. They lack training and experience to handle private personal data and social security numbers and bank account information, which makes absolutely no sense. As a business owner, there's a level of ethics and responsibility that you have to your employees, meaning that you have access to their personnel files, which ultimately means that your HR department has access to those files. And yet those files are being trusted by your employees to be handled with the utmost security. So I call bullshit on that one. Their power subjects, America's payment system, and the highly sensitive data within it to risk the exposure. Keep a pin in that one too. The exposure potentially to our adversaries and our critical infrastructure is at the risk of failure if the code that underwrites it is not handled with due care. That is why the federal judge this past weekend blocked, at least temporarily, these individual form of treasury payment systems, noting the risk of irreparable harm. Irreparable harm to whom, right? Got to ask that question. While significant data privacy, cybersecurity, and national security threats are gravely concerning, the constitutional issues are perhaps even more alarming. We take the extraordinary step of writing this piece because we are alarmed about the risks of arbitrary and capricious political control of the federal payments, which would be unlawful and corrosive to our democracy. A key component of the rule of law is the executive branch's commitment to respect Congress's power of the purse. The legislative branch has the sole authority to pass laws that determine where and how federal dollars should be spent. The role of the Treasury Department and the executive branch are more broadly, is not to make determinations about which promises of federal funding made by Congress it will keep and which it will not. As Justice Brett Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court previously wrote, even the president does not have unilateral authority to refuse to spend the funds. Chief Justice John Roberts agrees. He wrote that no area seems more clearly the province of Congress than the power of the purse. During our collective 18 years at the helm of the Treasury, we never were asked to stop congressionally appropriated funds from being paid out in full. Not since the Nixon administration has this type of executive action been contemplated at the time the Supreme Court ruled unanimously that the president did not have the power to withhold federal funds that Congress had unauthorized. The Trump administration may seek to change the law and alter what spending Congress appropriates as administrations before it have done as well. And should the law change, it will be the role of the executive branch to execute those changes. But it is not the Treasury Department or the administration to decide which of our congressionally approved commitments to fulfill and which to cast aside. No Treasury Secretary in his or her first week in office should be put in the position where it is necessary to reassure the nation and the world of the integrity of our payment systems or our commitment to make good on our financial obligations. Secretary Scott Bessent has had to do just that, and we are confronted to see the agency committed to Congress that any recent access to Treasury payment systems is not resulting in the suspension or rejection of any payment instructions submitted to the federal government when he has been asked repeatedly if Treasury has tried to block any federal payments. He has stated unequivocally that we have not. We hope this commitment stands. It is how the framers intended it when they designed a government with checks and balances and gave the executive branch a host of powers that provided our elected members of Congress and Congress alone the authority to levy taxes and spend federal funds. Many people and entities depend on the Treasury faithful disbursement of federal funds. Social Security checks arrive each month. Veterans receive their benefits. Medicare providers are reimbursed. Federal worker members of the military and business that provide goods and services to the government are all paid on time and in full. Holders of outstanding federal debt, we receive interest payments. People often rely on these funds for survival, making any risk of their cutoff or delay existential. But even more than the importance of making good on particular commitments is the importance of making good on the principles that the country stands for. We have, during our service in the Treasury Department, faced moments of crisis when the specter of an American default loomed. Any hint of the selective suspension of congressional authorized payments will be a breach of trust and ultimately a form of default, and our credibility, once lost, will prove difficult to regain. Interesting little piece of article. So I'm going to go ahead and kick my... I think what these guys are more afraid of than anything else, much like the USAID, I think what they're afraid of is just the fraud that's being exposed of. Now, if I do a quick internet search, let's see what happens here. Hopefully I'll get connected to my... Go. Let's see if let's do a quick internet search and find something here really quick. Let's see, not that one. However, I think I wanted this one. And let's go into here and let's see what Maxine Waters has to say about this particular. It's about a 15-second clip, but here she is. There's Maxine Waters in all of her glory. Let's go ahead and kick the volume up. Let's bring this back. And let's see what Maxine Waters has to say. And hopefully we'll be able to get some audio in here.
People of this country are being violated because all of our privacy is being taken up by Elon Musk and Trump. And we don't know what all they have on us. We don't know what all they have on us. People of this country.
There you go. Through the horse's mouth. Figuratively, of course. I crack myself up. Anyways, yeah, they don't know, these Democrats who are just all up in arms about what it is that DOGE is doing. Excuse me. Yeah, they don't know what they all have, all of the corruption and fraud. Speaking of which, I believe you can actually see U.S. Treasury corruption and fraud. This has been thrown up on the internet too. And again, take a lot of this with a grain of salt and do your own research. But apparently, there is a fact sheet. And I believe fact sheet: U.S. Department of Treasury actions to prevent and disrupt corruption. I don't believe this is it. Anyways, what I'll do, I won't waste too much of your time, but what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll look up that graph, that chart, and see and post it in the description, because I think, if I remember correctly, based on some other news reports, that these charts basically explain that, I think it said 25% of the Treasury's handout, it has to do with fraud. So by the own Treasury Department website, there is fraud. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents. I think you guys can make your own decisions and try to figure out what's going on. However, just a quick reminder that, President Trump, regardless if you love the man or hate the man, what's happening here is this actual mandate that people voted for. We want to see this corruption go away. and the ones that are screaming the loudest are the ones that are probably in on the grift. Just saying, there's quite a few other pieces of information that are out there as well regarding Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, of course, Nancy Pelosi. She's a big one. They make salaries that are anywhere between $165,000 to I think $175,000, maybe $224,000. I think was another number. And yet, on these government salaries, these people became millionaires. And we're not talking about like 1 millionaire or 2 millionaire. Like if they were putting away money over 40 years. I'm talking about like $70-80 million. So these are some things to be considered. As a matter of fact, hold on one second. I think I have something here. Let's take a look at what we see. Here we go. So Nancy Pelosi, $223,000 annual salary. Her net worth is $202 million. Mitch McConnell, right? This is the guy who keeps voting no on Trump's nominees, right? Mitch McConnell, $200,000 is his annual salary. Net worth $95 million. Who's he grifting from? Chuck Schumer, $210,000. His net worth $75 million. Elizabeth Warren, $285,000 a year. Her net worth is $67 million. This stuff is all on the internet. You can search it yourself. I mean, if you think the Democrats now are the Democrat Party of Robert F. Kennedy Sr. or JFK, you're sadly mistaken. It's more of a Marxist group that's basically grifting off of your tax dollars. Anyways, that's my opinion. Take what you like, leave the rest. Before I leave, don't forget my book, Simpin' Ain't Easy. 12 Steps to Embracing Common Sense and Rejecting Stupidity. It's got some pearls of wisdom in it as well. Things and what not to do. Anyways, I love you. I mean it. And you guys have yourselves a great day. Bye.